Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Heat Check podcast. I'm Anthony Chang, the Miami Herald's Heat beat writer. Today, we have a very special guest, Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press.
I'm
Tim,
looking for the special guest.
coming straight from Dallas, was in Sunrise last night for the Panthers' Game 2 win. Took an early morning flight for Media Day in Dallas for the NBA Finals. The hardest working man in the business. Tim, how are you?
I am excellent, my guy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you awake right now? How much coffee have you had?
I've gone. I'm honorary Cuban, as you know. So
You are, yeah.
Coffee does nothing for me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
I need high test, and we both know what that means. So it's a couple shots of espresso at the airport, and
MIA or Fort Lauderdale?
MIA.
Okay.
MIA for this one. Usually, I've become an MIA convert, by the way.
I think MIA gets too hard of a rap, bad of a rap, honestly. But that's controversial, kind of. But
Well, I mean,
I think it's
nothing
fine.
works in it, but it's everything else. It's really convenient. So that
If you're flying American, it's a good
if you're flying
experience.
American, it's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, and I fly American, so I'm probably biased, but yes.
I didn't fly American to Boston just because of the way the schedule had to work. So I had to get back to Fort Lauderdale for Media Day at Panthers. So I flew JetBlue out of Lauderdale, and I hadn't been to Fort Lauderdale in a minute, but I'm an MIA guy.
Good, I like that.
We're
Welcome to the
305.
club.
We're not
305.
we're not that 954 stuff. Come on now.
305 till we die. Let's talk about basketball.
Born and raised in the county of Dade, except I was not.
That's right. That's right. I was born and raised in the county of Dade.
You were.
I was.
That other county though, that Alachua that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah, that was temporary. That was a business decision, as ED would say. David Wilson, the usual host of this podcast, we've been talking about Heat offseason since season ended on May 1st. It's been like 6 weeks of this. So thought we'd bring in a fresh perspective, a very knowledgeable perspective. Tim Reynolds, who covers the Heat. Something new. I want to see what he thinks is going to happen this offseason. But first, we have to get to probably the center of the Heat's offseason right now. I guess it's Jimmy Butler, right? Just the extension conversation. There has been yet another development in that with Jimmy Butler this weekend.
Attending. We're so nervous about what I'm going to say. It's unbelievable.
Jimmy Butler attending a Los Angeles Sparks game to support Cameron Brink, who Cameron Brink has said in the past that Jimmy Butler is, I guess, technically basically her favorite NBA player. Like in an interview, she was given a choice of like all these different players. She's like, Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler did a cool thing to go over there, wear a jersey, sit courtside, watch her play, show her some love. But then during the broadcast, he did an interview and said while he was wearing the Cameron Brink jersey, who Cameron Brink has the same number as Jimmy Butler, 22, he said, for some reason, 22 just looks good in purple and gold with the classic Jimmy Butler smile. Why do you think he said that? Do you think that was intentional? And what do you take away from that comment?
No, I think he slipped. I don't think he meant it. I think he forgot what his own number was. Look,
I mean, maybe just having fun.
5 years of studying at Jimmy Butler University has given both of us a complete understanding of the fact that we will never completely understand Jimmy Butler. That is the God's honest truth. So he is acutely aware that the draft is coming up in a couple of weeks, that June 30th is going to be here before you know it, free agency, the trade machine. If the trade machine guys charged people $1 for putting Jimmy Butler in potential trades, just if you want to search on a Jimmy Butler trade, you have to pay $1. They'd be worth trillions of dollars. So he knows what he's doing. I do believe that he wants to remain in Miami. I do believe. I mean, we all know he wants the max.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Duh. I mean, everybody wants that. I get it. I do see his point on why he wants it and why he deserves it. The Heat are a better team when Jimmy Butler is great. obviously. And and I'm not of the school that Jimmy Butler at 35, I can't remember.
He's gonna be 35 in September, so basically
35 in September. I don't think he's anywhere near done. Like he's still Jimmy Butler. So you want to see a healthy Jimmy Butler coming in April? You're probably not too interested in winning. So there's a lot there about Jimmy to unravel. Obviously, he said it so people would do exactly this. He was probably thinking, Anthony and Tim, although he doesn't know, Anthony and Tim will talk about this on a pod, and that's what Jimmy needs. Besides the $200 million in the bank, he needs us talking about him too. Obviously, he's trying to stir up not controversy, but he's having some fun with a very tough time. I mean, this is not going to be an enjoyable. The conversations between Jimmy and the Heat will be difficult. The decisions that have to be made are extremely difficult. If Jimmy wants a trade at some point, if you get to that spot, it gets more difficult. There's nothing will be easy about this because you're asking a team to give a 35-year-old player an ungodly amount of money when he's 37 or 38, however the math would work.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not that different than what they already own. Like, I get that.
Right. It's one more year. It's basically one more year.
Basically one more year at a really high.
It's an expensive year. Yeah.
It's a very expensive year. I think if there was a fourth banner in the rafters at Kaseya Center, we would not be having this conversation. It would be done. There isn't. And we all know what Pat told all of us 10 months ago. Every team has a shelf life. This team hasn't gotten it done. We all know that. They've been close twice. 2020, healthy Bam, healthy Goran. They win that series. I'm sorry. I'm never going to get off my belief of that. Healthy Bam, healthy Goran. They win that series against the Lakers.
I think that's fair.
Changes the shape of everything. Not taking anything away from the Lakers. Lakers were great, but the Heat were wounded. By the time they got to Denver last year, they had nothing left. They had nothing left because of just how hard they'd gone. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that's been said. Does he take the regular season as seriously as he should? No, I believe he does not. Let's make that very, very clear. I don't think he got hurt because he didn't take the regular season seriously.
No, it just happened.
You can get hurt at any time. I mean, the argument that they shouldn't have been in the playing game and he'd been fine. Not how it works. That's just not how it works. He was having fun with it. I would imagine he's going to continue having fun with it. One way or another, Jimmy's going to be paid very, very well for the next 3 years. Jimmy will be in a position where he wants to be. The Heat do hold a lot of the cards, but not all the cards, because no one wants to deal with miserable Jimmy. Miserable Jimmy, as other teams have figured out, is somebody you don't want. And miserable Jimmy will get moved pretty quickly. So if he wants to force his hand or force Pat and Andy's hand, he can. He was having a lot of fun. And who had on their bingo card that Cameron Brink was going to forward the story of the Heat offseason? Who had that on their bingo card?
I did not, but it was fun. When I saw that the next morning, I saw I was at the game that night, but I didn't see the interview the next morning. I'm like, oh, Jimmy, this is something. This is going to be the start of a wild offseason.
And I think for the listeners, well, for the viewers, because you make us do this on video now, which is silly.
Yeah.
You would say that. You would just be like, oh, Jimmy, I had a far more, that Jimmy, you red stallion, I had a far more colorful response.
I think this situation is so interesting because of what you said. Both sides have very strong cases for their position, I think. Jimmy's position, like, I completely understand it, and I would have the same position he has of, I've been the reason you guys have made 2 finals and made 4 Eastern Conference finals. I've been the driving force behind that. If I'm healthy in the playoffs, I'm a top 5 player in the league. I've proven that. And the market, if there's interest, there's been reported interest of outside teams willing to give him the max. And usually guys like him in today's NBA, they get the max. They do. Stars get them. That's his max number. They get the max. I know at this age it's tough to you can make a case that he's not worth that. But like you said, when he's healthy, I mean, in that Philly game when he got hurt, I think he had like 5 steals in the first half. Like that, when he's engaged and he's healthy, he's still Jimmy Butler. Now the Heat's argument is you're not healthy and engaged enough to warrant that amount. And how can we, in 2 or 3 years, how could we expect that to improve, right? When you're making $60 million. So both sides have a pretty strong case for their position.
You cannot. The one thing the Heat knows that they cannot do, and look, I feel like we lecture Heat Twitter a bit too often sometimes. Incredibly passionate fans, love them to death. They're why we have jobs.
Yeah, they're great.
Back to Heat Twitter. The Heat can't run it back, not because you'll be mad, Heat Twitter, but they just know they can't run it back. Like, something must change because what you have.
Can I stop you there for a second? Because I wanted to ask you this, and this relates to this. You've watched the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. You're there at the finals right now. You were in Boston for the first few games. I know running back is a bad term right now. This would be year 6 of this core. You don't see NBA teams go 6 years with the same core without winning a championship. Like that doesn't happen in today's
you don't see
NBA.
It win a championship.
Even when they do, it's right. It's just tough in general. But, and people are going to get on me for this, but I do think, right, would you make an argument that if this team, healthy, and that's a big if, healthy, could be the second best team in the East? And maybe if they get to the conference finals, they give Boston a tough series.
But yes, if healthy, yes.
Right.
You do have the best.
The question is, can you run it back, I guess? Is it really true that you can't run it back?
Yes, it is, because no one's going to hang a banner for gave Boston a tough series. I have never seen a gave team tough series banner anywhere.
You can make one.
I can't wait for the photo to come in. Do people still even use Photoshop? Did I show my age? I just don't. I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to say this. I'm trying to think of a Whoops. You got me?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of say this, and I don't have one. This team, as currently constructed, cannot score enough to win.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a flawed team offensively. It's a flawed team.
And the defense only can take you so far, as we have. It needs something else, and it's something else significant. Like, I don't think I've hidden the fact that I am a proud fake alumnus of Syracuse University, even though I never actually went to Syracuse other than one basketball camp. I think Cole Swider can be in the rotation. Cole Swider's worked incredibly hard. I think Cole Swider's capable of giving this team some decent minutes next season.
Right.
But it's not enough. Like you have to find a way to be able to score more easily than you have now. It can't be an 82 game grind. This is where I almost think the Heat have to evolve a bit. Like the culture, I've seen a lot of serious XM personalities during this finals run. They're really nice face to face. They're really nice to you face to face. Not everything can be a grind.
Yeah.
It can't be a grinded out every night. The NBA is just too good. Like, people are on Jason Tatum because Jason Tatum, going into game 3 of the finals, is shooting like 34% or whatever it is in this series. Well, first of all, it's only been 2 games. Secondly, he's averaging 17, 10, and 8.5. That's pretty good.
He's doing pretty much everything else.
He's doing pretty much everything other than scoring. If that's what we're going to nitpick about, that you can't score enough, and Jason Tatum's averaging nearly a triple-double so far in the series, it just speaks to how people, we all act like we don't want to see 120, 118 games, but that's kind of what it takes to win now in a lot of ways, especially in the regular season. It changes in the playoffs. It changed this year after the All-Star break when the league never sent a memo saying don't call stuff anymore, when it might not have been in paper, but it clearly happened. I just don't. You can't. There has to be a significant. And to make that happen in this apron world, there has to be a significant subtraction. Yeah. Ask me the next question. Don't ask me the next question.
I'm not going to ask you the next question, but I will say that the Heat have admitted as much by their actions, right? They tried to get Kevin Durant 2 years ago. They tried to get Damian Lillard last year. They know they need that guy, that guy who can score 30 on any given night, go for 40. I mean, did a Heat player even score 40 points this season? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, how many teams could say that they didn't have a guy score 40? And in today's NBA, that's like not that crazy to have a guy score 40 points in a game.
I think Luka had like 21, 40 or something crazy. Luka had a ton of 40-point games, and he scored exactly 39 like 9 times.
Yeah, I mean
exactly 39 on almost once every other week. The way it worked out, it's you need more often. You need to make things easier. Like people look at Bam's numbers, okay? Where's the big jump in Bam? Where's that going to come from? Like it or not, Bam plays the 5, 4, right. 5, whatever it is, 1, 4, 5 when he brings the ball up. Now he's shooting 3, so he's a 1, 2, 4, 5. He's basically everything but a 3 now in the way he plays. Bringing in the other guy, another person who can drop 20, 30 consistently, can go off for 40. Just can scare teams enough to always have somebody on him at all times. That's going to be what takes Bam to the next level.
Sure.
There's nothing that Bam, as currently constructed, there's nothing Bam can do to add to his game. Can he shoot more threes? Yes, but do you really want that?
Right.
You need Bam at the rim. You need Bam rebounding. You need Bam shooting that 12, 15, 18-footer that he's been so good at. That's what Bam will get. Bam's numbers will soar when you give Bam the right help.
Yeah, and Bam is a great player. I think he's a top 20 player, top 25 player in the NBA. But he's not a number one.
Bam was very close.
He was right. Yeah, he's one of the first guys left off probably. But he's never. I don't want to put limitations on him, but I think it's pretty safe to say he's probably never going to be the number one option on a championship team offensively. That's not what he can be a number 2 option. He put number 3. If he's a number 3 offensive option on a team, you have a great team, right?
Well, I don't want the best defensive player in the league, which he is.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. We both voted for defensive player of the year.
You and Frank Isola of all
people, right?
It's you don't want the best defensive player also being the best offensive player.
Exactly.
And again, I'm not putting a ceiling on Bam, and to use the SPO line, this is not an indictment of Bam.
Right.
Bam's a 18-10, 20-9, 22-9, whatever. Bam does so much that doesn't reflect in the boxes. He's the perfect guy for what Eric Spoelstra wants to do on both ends of the floor. So that alone makes him the number 1 option. Now, is Jimmy the number 1 option when he's on the floor and healthy? Yes.
Yeah.
Are there times Tyler's also the number 1 option? Yes. Like you can't just have one number 1 option.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. Look at the Celtics, right? They're perfect.
Who's the Celtics' best player?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown. I'm kidding. I don't know.
But
it might be. Yeah.
But it's also Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And some nights it's Drew.
Some nights it's Derek White.
And when they play Miami, it's Sam Hauser for reasons that defy all logic.
It's true.
You need more guys. You just need. So yes. I stand by. They cannot run it back. But
so there's
a line between run it back and blow it up.
Right. And I think we agree on that. You can't bring this core back. I think you got to make some tweaks around the edges, right? But so the next question then is, can you get that third guy while keeping Bam and Jimmy? Do you think that will be possible this offseason, or are we wasting time with these Donovan Mitchell I mean, obviously, we need to see if Donovan Mitchell signs the extension with Cleveland first, but if he does become available, do they have enough to get a guy like that or another star of that caliber if he becomes available while keeping Bam and Jimmy?
Just to be clear, because as you know, I'm an avid reader of your mailbag.
Yes.
Have you ruled out the possibility that Miami can get Donovan Mitchell for Nico and 6 round picks?
I haven't ruled it out yet. Everything's on the table right now.
Close.
It's too early in the offseason.
Well, first of all, I don't know why Bam's in this conversation.
No, I'm just saying if you keep Bam's not going anywhere. I agree with you, right?
Again, it all depends. What Brooklyn is going to do this summer fascinates me, because you have ownership in Brooklyn. You have Joe Tsai basically coming out and saying, we're starting over. Hi, I'm Mikal Bridges. I don't want to start over.
Right.
Now, what does it take to get Mikal Bridges? I think the asking price for Donovan Mitchell would be significantly higher than the asking price for a Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is exceptional. Who else? I mean, I know you've heard it explained to you the same way that I get it explained to me. Like, 20 teams made the play-in or the playoffs. 12 of them were done by the end of round one. That means 22 teams in the league did not have a very good year. You didn't win a playoff series, right, which to me is always the benchmark. Did you have a good year or not? Well, San Antonio had a great year, and they won 22 games.
Right.
So I have said this for years. Teams will never, ever, ever, ever line up to do anything that they think could help the Miami Heat. Miami is never going to get the Matthew Tkachuk for Jonathan Huberdeau deal. Like, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to trade the 31-year-old version of Matthew Tkachuk for the 23-year-old version of Matthew Tkachuk. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Did that end when they traded Jay Rich and Hassan for Jimmy? That ended there? Because I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But again, it was an exceptional situation where Jimmy could demand change.
I think they need Donovan to do that. If the Donovan thing is going to happen, I think they would probably need that. Need Donovan.
They had that last summer.
Yeah.
And again, the silliness that went on, it still is going on about, the Heat package wasn't good enough. It would be like saying, I don't pick up your call, my Skype performance today wouldn't be good enough on this pod. Like, Portland just never engaged.
They never really went far. Yeah.
I mean, they were not going to give. Well, fine, we'll let you go, but we're not going to give you to where you want to go. That's all that was, and how it became what it's become in the last year is crazy. But it's going to take more than just a guy stomping his foot and saying, "I want to go to Miami."
But the Heat have enough assets. I think they do have enough assets too to if a guy said that, they have enough to say.
They do.
Yeah.
There are actual draft picks.
Right.
In which hasn't happened here in forever.
Young players that have upside.
There are really good young players with upside. You can't trade Jimmy Butler for a Jimmy Butler type player because there aren't very many Jimmy Butlers. So it's going to take, for something like that to happen, somebody's going to want to take on 35-year-old Jimmy and give him the extension. I feel bad because it's going to happen. I mean, it already kind of is, that it's going to be another summer where Tyler just gets, and Tyler's just going to be in every trade conversation. Every trade rumor, because who knows what the conversations are.
Yeah.
And I feel like I say this every year. If you don't think the Heat are going to have talks about trading Jimmy, signing Clay, reacquiring LeBron, and so on, you're insane. Of course they're going to have those conversations.
Yeah. You have
because
to.
Every team talks about every possibility.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that. They just don't go to the car lot, pick, I want this car, and drive away with it. They look at other cars, like most people. It shouldn't be a foreign concept to people. By the way, the Clay thing's fascinating.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
I think you're going to be covering Clay 4 times next year.
In the East, Orlando?
All in the state of Florida.
Orlando. Oh.
I think it's a great fit. I just
that's a really good fit for him. They need shooting too.
Golden State would do it. I think Golden State still wants. I think they want. They're going to keep it together until they absolutely are convinced that they can't. I mean, everything there is a 2-year window now.
Yeah.
Steph has 2 years. Steve Kerr signed for 2 more years. Like, you have 2 more years. And ownership there doesn't care what the tax bill is. I don't know if they're going to give up on Clay. And that's even the wrong way to put it. I think Clay wants to be there. I know they want him there. But Orlando is fascinating. Orlando's going to do something this summer.
If they can add him, and they're going to continue to get better because they're young, that is a really, really intriguing team.
It's an intriguing team. They won 1 more game than Miami this year. Well,
Good.
Plus, then the playoffs. So I guess technically 3 more.
3 more. Yeah.
They went 7. Teams are getting better.
Yeah.
Teams are getting better around you. And who's dropping? Atlanta dropped. Atlanta.
Well, they have the number 1 pick. A couple years they could be.
So, and it's we don't know what Terry Rozier really is. Yeah,
that's the thing.
Within the context of the Heat, we know what he is. He's a really good. We don't know how it really will work because we just didn't get enough of a sample size to see how it will work.
We got to see Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, and Terry for 10 games last season, and
it was a weird time for them. Like, Terry was still finding himself. Like, we never saw what it really should be. What if DeJounte's available? Now, I think there's a place we all know. I think most people who cover this league, if we had a say in things, we'd all be like, there's one place. Well, I'll speak for myself. There's one place I want to see DeJounte. I want to see him.
San Antonio back in the Spurs.
I want to see him in the Spurs.
I kind of think Trey. I think Trey and Wemby would be a great.
I think it'd be
pick and roll combo. You think it'd be a good basketball fit. Be a fun basketball fit.
I think it'd be a terrible basketball fit.
Oh, we agree to disagree.
I have given up. On Trey.
Nah, not yet. Not yet.
Do you want to win or do you want to win on your terms? Because there's a heck of a big difference there.
But if he's not the number 1 guy, I feel like if he can, quote unquote, fit in somewhere as just kind of knowing his role as the running the offense and
any indication he can do that?
Yeah, I know. No, that's true. But
his team with the Hawks.
Yeah.
It is Wemby's team.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Chris Paul to San Antonio would be really special.
Yeah. Steph Curry in San Antonio. That's not happening.
But could Chris Paul end up there? None of this was on your things to talk about.
I actually had one more Jimmy question I wanted to ask you.
What do you got?
Because I think this is a legitimate possibility, considering all the scenarios. Can you see a world where they don't give Jimmy the extension? They don't trade Jimmy. They don't want to trade Jimmy. They bring him back on basically what could be an expiring contract as a player option next year. And they, quote unquote, try to call his bluff and say, opt out if you want in the offseason at going to be 36 years old. See if somebody will give you the max contract. Worst case scenario, we have a motivated Jimmy Butler because he's going to be playing for a contract, right? He'll have some motivation, some incentive to play a lot of games and play well if he wants that max deal on the other side. Can you see that happening? Can you see the Heat bringing back Jimmy if there's no extension agreed to, while understanding that Jimmy wants that extension this offseason? Like, knowing that it might be kind of awkward. We don't know how Jimmy's going to handle that throughout the season. Can you see the Heat doing that?
I wish I knew more about technology. Because I'd like to take my finger right now and just drag that Magic Johnson gif across the screen where he's going.
So you think it's extension or trade? Let's put it on the spot. But this is a guess. We're all guessing here. This is not like
your argument Your argument is a fine one. The scenario is plausible.
Losing him for nothing would be a disaster. I understand that. But he'd also get a ton of cap space.
Would it?
Compared to the alternative of getting something for him, if you're not gonna bring him back,
You don't want to lose anyone for nothing.
Right.
Like that, and Jimmy Butler's not anyone. He's
Jimmy.
And
that would be the risk of it. You lose the risk.
It would be the risk. Yes. I get that the money's just unfathomably big. Like, I get that. In what world do you think Pat is going to sit around and say, let's call somebody's bluff and see if he plays? Like, that's where we are now. Is there actually a chance that a player, any player, whether it's Jimmy Butler, whether it's, trying to think of another Butler, the Butler from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like, is there any Butler?
The one in the Hulu commercials with Jimmy?
The one in the Hulu commercial with Jimmy. Yeah. That's the guy.
Yeah,
right?
That's the guy. Jeffrey.
I couldn't think of it. Thank you.
I love Fresh Prince.
I feel like I'm the guy standing in the living room making these arguments with nobody else there but Will when they're on the move out day. I don't think it's possible. I don't think there would be any. Look, Jimmy acts like he doesn't. Jimmy's whole thing is he doesn't care, right? I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. And with us, it's true. He truly doesn't care what I say. I guarantee. That's not a joke. I've been making the same joke for years. Like, I don't think he knows my name. I truly don't. He just does not.
I don't agree with that. I think he knows. I actually know he knows your name, but
Bernie knows my name. I don't think Jimmy knows my name. But that's beside. I just don't see him showing up and saying, "Okay, fine, I'm going to show you." Because if they don't give Jimmy what he wants, then you become Jimmy's sworn enemy. And Jimmy's not going to do anything sworn enemy. So I just don't. I don't see how it has to be resolved before camp. You can't go into the season with this because
with this looming.
It's going to be $100 million in salary and tax and whatever else next year again.
Yeah.
No way the Heat are going to say we're going to waste $200 million on a lost season because we couldn't figure out a way to make Jimmy happy.
Yeah, and to Jimmy's position, like, I don't think he believes he has anything to prove to them at this point. I know some people might disagree with that, but he has done a lot.
I would agree with that. He's done everything but win a championship.
Right. And some of that has not been his. I mean, again, like injuries, like you said, that wasn't his fault in the bubble.
100%.
That team probably should have won the championship.
I know the rule is you have to win one to get your number retired. I do think if Jimmy Butler left the Heat today,
he would get it.
I think his number would be retired. I also wouldn't show up for the ceremony, but I think they'd retire his number because it would be peak Jimmy being Jimmy.
He would just send in a video.
I don't know. He wouldn't even send in a video.
It'd be funny if he sends in a video.
He'd
from
be
Brazil.
He'd set up a pack for 601 and have a separate competing event.
That'd be funny. Yeah, I mean, he's already one of the greatest players in history.
I believe that, and people think for some reason that like when you say don't give him the extension or is it worth the full max at his like you just don't like Jimmy. That's crap.
Right.
Like Jimmy's amazing to watch. The reality is, can you commit $60 million in 3 years to a guy who hasn't shown you a whole lot of interest in playing right now?
Yeah. And because
then you're wasting him that you're spending on Bam and who else on Tyler. You're giving Spo $15 million a year now. Look, this is you have to be in it. The amount of money that teams are spending now, you have to be competitive every year, or else there's going to be big changes every year. The cap, by the time this next TV deal gets done, the cap's going to be close to like $400 million or something stupid. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to change a lot in this world soon. Now, none of that is Jimmy's fault or his doing, obviously. If the only way to make him happy, I'll just end it with this. The only way to make him happy is to give him every dollar that he possibly can get. I don't see how this ends happily.
Yeah.
Can you give him an extension? Yeah. Can you give him all of it? I don't know. And I'm leaving.
Yeah. My final word on this for this episode would be it's a more complicated, I think, decision than most people are kind of portraying it. There are consequences, big consequences to both decisions. It's kind of like a crossroads for the Heat base. If they give Jimmy that extension, you're basically locking yourself into this core again. Maybe not the exact same core, but it's Jimmy and Bam for 3 more years, pretty much. And you're saying we think that's still good enough to win a championship, which is it still good enough? Is it going to be good enough in a year or two when he's 36, 37? It's a salary cap sport, and we know the how many penalties, how limiting the new CBA is, right? With 2 max guys in Bam and Jimmy, and if you still have Tyler, you can't do that. You might be able to hope for a guy like Donovan Mitchell to come available, but that's going to be out of your hands.
And look,
you're locking yourself into Bam and Jimmy.
The cap changed a decade ago because of the Miami Heat. The rules changed because of the Miami Heat, and you saw what happened. You couldn't keep LeBron. Then Chris got sick, and it was basically a 2-year reset. It wasn't a 15 and 67 reset like in 2007, 2008, but it was a reset. The Heat have shown they're not afraid to push reset.
Right.
They are afraid to push tank. Tank won't happen again.
No.
Pat regrets the tank, I think, more than anything he's probably done in 50 years in the game. They're not going to tank.
They pivot. This would be a pivot point.
Pivot
if they
is
don't,
the word.
Yeah.
Pivot is the word. But it only takes one more guy. It's
the decision might be based on if they can get that guy. If a guy like Donovan Mitchell comes available at the draft or something, if they can get a guy, they might say, let's give Jimmy the extension. Let's lock ourselves into this 3-year window. But I don't know how the chance of them knowing that before they have to make a decision. It's going to be very.
The dates are not in their favor.
No.
It's very, very difficult. Or do you keep your eyes open for what's going to happen in Milwaukee?
Right.
Not with Dame.
With Giannis.
The other guy. Yes. With Thanasis. That's what they should do. Maybe they should do the reverse Bronny. Don't draft Bronny to get LeBron. Sign Thanasis.
And then see what happens.
Now I've got the other meme. The guy.
The other meme that like this. Yeah.
Oh, the guy's doing that. That's chestnut checkers right there.
The pivot is interesting because that is the other. If you don't give him the extension, that is the other path, right? You're pivoting, whether that means trading Jimmy and just building around Bam, and now concentrating the Bam timeline, getting another young star around him. You still have Jaime and Nico, technically, maybe even Tyler. You go young. You have a fun team. Is it a championship team immediately? Probably not, but you have a fun team, and you collect draft picks from a trade. That's the other scenario.
But it's so delicate because there's no exactitude to any of these because like we go back, you and I are agreed on a lot of things for 2 people that they're not. We don't like you. I never have. I'm not a fan.
I haven't spoken to Tim this entire offseason until right now. This episode.
You kind of haven't.
I'd say very limited communication, actually. We've spoken, though.
Wife's IG stories. I was like, oh, it's okay. You have to show that when we go to camp in the Bahamas the first week of October, it better be a team that's capable more offensively than the team we saw at the end of the year. And I don't mean because of health and everybody will be available.
Yeah.
You can't take away Jimmy.
And then not replace him with it.
Yeah. Bringing in
yeah. If you're trading Jimmy this year, you're not going to be better. I just don't think you're going to be better.
Unless you're trading him for for Donovan, plus you're trading him for Kevin Durant.
Even then you could argue for Donovan. Even then you could argue you're not better. You might not be.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
It's tough. It's a very difficult decision. I think we've kind of made that point with our conversation of like both sides have cases. I don't know what's going to happen.
Every possible side of this thing. We're no
and I don't
closer
know
to what the right move is.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know. I don't know. It's fascinating. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. I mean, the two sides can formally discuss the extension the day after the finals, so that could happen as soon as Saturday. Are they going to engage in conversation on Saturday if that happens? Like,
will it be formal? Will it be formal, or will guys be will guys be in Crocs on the phone? Will it not be formal?
Informal, formal.
I'm sure it's crossed some minds.
I'm sure it has. Yeah.
He's a great player, and there's nobody like him. It's a very difficult decision. That said, LeBron is turning 40. Steph's up there. KD's up there. With the amount of money guys are spending on their bodies, the investment they're putting into keeping their careers as long as possible because the money is so damn big at the end of their careers.
And Jimmy takes care of his body.
Jimmy does take care of his body.
Yeah.
Like, the only bad thing Jimmy does to his body is when he shows up as emo Jimmy on media day.
And 12 cappuccinos a day probably isn't great for your body, but
you're like, you've got.
I'm not an athlete. I'm not an athlete though. I can drink that. I can do that, but I'm not an athlete. But no, Jimmy takes care of his body.
Jimmy's in phenomenal condition. Yeah. And it's not going to be a question of can he still. I mean, he's never been a guy who's going to be like, I'm going to go out and drop 50 tonight, unless he's playing the Bucks.
It's not his game.
It's not his game. But he's still one of the baddest men in the world.
Yeah.
And Pat loves those guys. You need to figure out, and by you, I don't mean Pat or Andy. I mean, literally, I mean you. I mean you, Anthony Chang. You have to figure out what does Bam want? What does Jimmy want? Like, you almost need to, it's almost like you have two kids, okay? And you're like, we're going to get you a total of 7 Christmas presents this year, and you have to share them. So you're going to ask them for a list of everything. And then the first time you see 7 things that are the same, you get those, and it's done. It's very simple.
Overlap, whatever overlaps.
You need to talk to Bam, you need to talk to Jimmy, and be like, okay, what overlaps? What do you want? What do you want to see happen here? I'm pretty sure on some level they know the answers to those questions. And I'm not in any way suggesting there's some sort of schism.
Right.
It's a locker room. Guys get along one day, they don't the next. It happens all the time. It's whatever. Bam wants to win. Jimmy wants to win. You have the worst poker face I've ever seen.
No, I was thinking about something. No,
you weren't. You were like, you are going to catch so much hell after this posts. I won't get the call. You'll get the
this
call.
Episode is posting. I'm not sure it will.
I don't know if it is or not. If I was you,
I just wanted to talk to you, Tim. That's it.
Are we just chatting?
Yeah.
Can I get back to my Kyrie story yet?
Last thing I will say, final last thing I will say on this. It ended poorly here with Shaq.
This ain't the last thing. We got one more thing to do after this.
Yes, we do. It didn't end great. It didn't end great with LeBron. It actually really didn't end initially great with Chris Bosh because of all this different situation. And then Dwayne in 2016, it was ugly. So this happens, right?
3 of the 5 innings with Dwayne were not good. Yes, that's true.
This happens. It's not the first time if this continues to go in a bad fashion, right? Like, this is the way stuff like this unfortunately unfolds in a lot of cases. So will that happen again with Jimmy and the Heat? I don't know, but
yeah, breakups are bad.
Yeah, it's not unique to this. I'm not saying they're going to break up. They might not, but if they do break up, it's not going to be pretty, and that's the way it goes.
I'm thinking of the Carmela Soprano line. everything comes to an end.
Yeah.
You're too young to get that reference, but
No, I understand what you're saying though.
I mean, if anyone thinks that like there's going to be a press conference where Jimmy announces, like, Jimmy, do you think it's like the last scene of Any Given Sunday, where Pat and Jimmy are going to show up together, and Pat's going to be like, "I'm taking over as coach in Albuquerque." Like, I just don't. Why am I dropping movie references? There's no way you've seen that.
Panthers. What do you think about the Panthers?
We're done. We're done now. We're just moving on to Panthers.
Finish your point. I was bothering you.
My point is the end will be bad. Yes, the end will be bad.
Whatever that is. It could be now. It could be in 2 years. It could be in 3 years. Yeah.
It's just, it's going to be bad. But that's also Jimmy's personality. Like, Jimmy talks so much crap. Like use Tibbs, for example. Jimmy loves Tibbs, but he wants to kill Tibbs every time they play him. Like, that's just the way Jimmy is. Like, I think the money's so big now, there's really no room for rivalries anymore. There's no room for, like the Heat. Do you think Kyle has ill will toward the Heat?
No.
He gave Kyle $90 million.
Kyle's a vet.
I think Kyle's a pretty. Oh, Jimmy's a vet.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, "Oh my God, the breakup was terrible." Kyle, I don't know if it was.
Yeah.
I think it was that. You want to do some hockey?
Is Barkov playing?
You know, from listening so when do you put
Thursday morning, the morning of the game.
So
I'm assuming he'll be questionable or like game time decision at that point.
I do not believe he will play on Thursday. I have no knowledge of that. As we sit here on Tuesday afternoon, I have no knowledge of whether. Now, watch him come out tomorrow and say that he'll play, and then I want to make the timing of this very clear.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they're going to try to get one without him.
I mean, they're up 2-0. They have the.
They have
to do that. Yeah.
They have Bob. That was such a bizarre play last night. That was such a bizarre play. And for the league to do nothing with it is
that definite? Is that definite at this point? They're not going to do anything, or are they still?
Hurts. And again, in case
I know it's Thursday. Yeah. All right, we had some technical difficulties there, so ending this episode on my own. But thank you for listening to the Heat Check, watching the Heat Check. Thank you to Tim Reynolds for joining us this week. You can follow him at by Tim Reynolds on X. You can follow me at Anthony_Chang on X. Make sure to check out MiamiHerald.com for all your South Florida sports news, Panthers stuff, Heat stuff, Dolphin stuff. You have everything you need there as a South Florida sports fan. Thanks again, and see you all very soon.